Well, so I've not had time to make a video for quite a while now, and I've been really quite busy. So I've taken a break. I think it's a good thing. And right now I'm not in perfect health, as you can probably tell. But it's just, I believe it's part of the healing process that is involved in the diet. Um, in this carnivore diet, which I'm finding amazing. So I don't feel great, but I think it'll be okay soon. These things tend to come and go quite quickly. Um, I've got catarrh and a sore throat, and maybe a bit of fever. But tomorrow I'll probably be fine. I might not be, of course. I can't, you know, bank on it, but it's been that way so far. I've been having fun just now. I've been dancing. I haven't danced for such a long time. And I'm trying to exercise and be more physical in my life to heal my body and, develop a bit of form and a bit of stamina. And it occurred to me, I was playing, I like the French band, what are they called? Air. And the other band, I don't think they're French, probably some other terrible place, called Armada. I was listening to them, and I like to listen to that stuff at high volume because it needs to be played loud, I think. So my neighbours are away, and I've got this, the stereo's going quite nicely. I use both sets of KEF speakers. And they need to be driven like anything, and to show their worth. And they do sound okay. They sound all right. I'm not saying that it's hi-fi, but it sounds okay. Sounds pretty good. You have to push stuff to get performance out of it, and I think the same thing will be true of the motor car that I've inevitably foolishly purchased to fuel my conceit and hardly anything more. But it's a real challenge. It's not like just going and driving somewhere in the Fiat Panda. Every single time I've gone out, it's like going on an adventure so far. In fact, I'm intimidated by the car, and I can't honestly drive it. I can't gauge the position on the road very accurately. And coming back from the mechanic, I knocked a parked car with my mirror. And I don't do stuff like that. I mean, I can't be doing that. And then I hit the curb hard with the rear wheel coming round a small roundabout. There was a bang, and that I might have done some damage with that. I'll have to have it looked at. So those two events have slightly shaken my confidence. It seems to me that I'm finding it difficult to judge the position of the car or the space that it occupies on the road, because my perspective as a driver has gone from the Panda, which has quite a high driving position, to this, which is particularly low. So I'm peering up, really, not exactly peering, I'm peering over the bonnet. Also the Panda has a very short bonnet. This has a longer nose. And, getting out into traffic is obviously a bit more adventurous. And certain maneuvers, I suppose, would also have to rely on the speed of the car because it is fast when you put your foot down, it shifts, which is very nice. It feels great. But also the I'm finding the gearbox tricky. I can't quite sort it out, and I think I might need to change the gearbox oil. So I'm planning to take it into an MX3 specialist. My main mechanic had a look at it and he said it was fine, but he'd found that the rear brakes were locked and they had quite a job at freeing them. He said, as far as he could tell, they hadn't been used for quite a long time. They'd probably been locked for a long time. I think the car's probably had a good maintenance up until about, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, and then it's been sold to somebody who's just driven it and thrashed it a bit. But I intend to look after it as much as I can. So after my experience with the MGTF, where I really wasn't aware of what I was getting into, and when the bills started to mount up, I sold it. And then I saw it about a month ago in a field, rotting basically. It was being advertised for £450, but I don't think it would have sold. Those cars, they have to be in pretty good condition to attract somebody. Because if you're going to have to start, doing rust and body panels, then the cost is going to be prohibitive. The car will have other problems. It was only a 1600 also. That's one of the least popular, I suppose, because it's the least powerful. But it was sad to see it, I mean, I was the custodian for a while. I didn't treat it all that well, I suppose. So with this car, my intention is to get it running properly and in a state where I can truly rely on it, because I would like to drive down to Italy and go and see my daughter. That's the main thing that I have on my agenda. But I haven't arranged it yet because it's quite a big trip, and I need to be fit and focused, and I need to improve my driving, obviously, because it's what the Australians call shitful at the moment in that car. Because then I'm fumbling for a gear. I can't even get it into gear, for heaven's sake. Obviously I'm going to improve. I haven't driven it very much at all. I'll just have to remember that I'm tending to keep a bit too much to the left. That is, I'm getting a false impression of the width of the car, and this is what's causing the problems. A lot of the roads here become quite narrow when there's traffic. There's only a small space between parked cars on one or both sides of the road and oncoming traffic. It's quite, if you don't have a good feel for the size of your vehicle, then you're just going to have to stop all the time. Now, I'm not saying threading a needle, but certainly, you're probably leaving a couple of inches, I suppose, sometimes, on either side. I find it quite nerve-wracking, even in the Panda, which is very easy in those conditions because your visibility is so good, you're so high. But the Mazda is, as all sports cars, you're sitting in a place where you don't want to be really in traffic, but a place where you do want to be, when you get onto the twisty roads. So that's what the car's going to be good for, obviously. And I haven't really had an opportunity to do that. Also because the weather has been so treacherous. So there was I dancing in the house and realizing it's very good exercise. I enjoy dancing, although I haven't had any formal training in how to do it. But I've always quite liked it. I didn't do it very much because I felt self-conscious, but now that self-consciousness has somehow disappeared through the whatever struck me last year. At the end of the year, I think it happened, or was it at at the end of the year, which I called the blow of the witch, because it was a consequence of her rejection and my self-reflection. Those things preceded it, and my mournful period, and then suddenly the awakening happened, and I saw myself also, and how ridiculous I was. And how ridiculous we all are, actually. This is the beauty of that, you know. Everything is ridiculous. But the word of the Lord will stand forever. That's one of the reasons why I love the Bible so much. And I was involved in the Christian or Carnivores in Christ or something forum on the internet. And I got kind of jostled out, I noticed, as does occur, because there were some very interesting discussions starting concerning dietary practice, and the points that I was raising. I'd raised them concerning what is written in Genesis, about what are our foods and so on. I mean, there's a lot of it's a very big subject, and I don't have any. I've got some ideas, but I wouldn't say that I'm completely decided on anything. The discussions were lively, and then there were another couple of subjects that came up, and I found them interesting, and so I heaved in with my, I suppose, some people might consider them to be arcane interpretations. I mean, to me, they seem just logical, but I think the Earth is flat. And so to some people, that already means that I'm mentally ill. And by the way, I will say this. I've got a tattoo. It's come out quite well, actually. Where is it? What can you see there? It's like a picture of the flat Earth with he sitteth upon the circle of the earth written above it. I'm quite pleased with it. And I had a conversation with the tattoo artist, of course, as he was doing it, because it's obviously it's an interesting theme, I suppose. I don't think he does them very often. I don't think he's probably ever done one before. I think a lot of people wouldn't want to have it because, of course, they think it identifies them as a dullard. But we live in a world of opposites. So I had that, and I'm thinking I'd quite like to have some of the Beatitudes, or just a few words of scripture. One that I was considering was, Proverbs is so beautiful. Proverbs 8 and Proverbs 9, talking about wisdom. how wisdom is the thing that we must seek out, and how true is this? Um, Wisdom is the greatest thing, and people don't see it. Yeah, this is the problem with you see the tattoo artist. Then he told me that I said obviously you've heard of it, but he said that he didn't care about it at all. So some people say it's flat, some people say it's a ball. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Can't it's not something that he was going to waste his time on. And the same response really concerned the Bible. That some people say it's true, some people say it isn't. So there's no point in wasting your time on such matters. But I think that's I'm critical of that. I think that's an error, really, because it's not considering the need that we have for discrimination. You've got to be discriminating in your outlook and in your um, judgment of the world around you. And discrimination is a bit of an art, really. I mean, there's so many biases and screens that you have to break down to get through to the core, because you don't want to put any kind of psychological barriers, but you have to recognize that we do have psychological barriers to our thought structure. So you have to consult these participants, as it were, in the path to knowledge. Our personality, to a measure, is formed of actors outside of ourselves that act through us. And there are those who raised us, those with whom we interacted when we were very small. They form part of a system that continues to have power over a man and a woman in their life to some extent. And so again, you have to be acquainted with these things. When you're acquainted with them, then you can sort of eliminate them, as it were, from the equation. You understand that bias, and you allow for it, as it were, or you choose it, perhaps, consciously. But discrimination will lead to the truth. And of course, Proverbs does say, does it not? He that answereth a matter before he heareth it, it is a folly and a shame unto him. We understand that, the logic of that. It's really almost judicial, you see. And yet, that does happen so often that people just don't want to look into it. And, to say that there's a mixture of opinion about matters is just, I think, is a bit of a cop-out. No offence. I mean, people can say what they want to. Don't get me wrong. I'm not laying down the law. I'm just trying to understand the philosophy. You see, because discrimination is what you will use in situations where you are invested in the outcome. But considering these matters, whether the earth is flat or whether the Bible is true, which are two quite big questions, you're not invested in the outcome of those things. You know that those things won't change if you don't pay attention to them. So you see them as of lesser importance. And you abandon what would be your customary practice of using discrimination. If, for example, if you were dealing with a financial matter or perhaps a familial matter with a direct impact upon your life. But I suppose you see then people will say, well, the Bible doesn't have that direct impact, and whether the earth is flat or not doesn't have that direct impact, but it actually really does. It has a huge impact. But, he that answereth the matter before he heareth it. This is the important thing, and they wouldn't hear it in the church, you see. They wouldn't hear it. They won't hear it, and I'm pretty convinced. This is many people know this, that once you have heard the arguments of explaining where we live, and taken a little bit of time to think about it, you understand that it's true. Nobody, once you've understood it, you understood it, because it's the logical thing, but we've been taught not to trust our senses, and that our logic is somehow fallacious. This is an important part of the spell that has been cast over mankind and womankind also. So I've been dancing, and it's some pretty good exercise, I'm going to say. So maybe I'll join a dance class. But I don't know whether they do the kind of dancing that I like doing, which is just basically, that stupid dancing where you just sort of groove out or something and, do some moves, whatever it's called. That's the sort I quite like doing. I mean, I like, I can imagine that some other types of dancing would be quite good fun, but I don't know how to do them. Like that line dancing always looks quite good to me, but you could sure get that one wrong, couldn't you? And end up standing on somebody's feet. There's a lot to learn. And then the top form of dancing, they always say, is like the, what's it called? Oh, I can't remember. South American stuff, isn't it? I think that'd be too high energy for me. But I'll tell you, it's, dancing, I tell you, obviously, better than me. Dancing is high energy, and, it's good. I felt very exercised after a while. So I think I'll just incorporate it into my exercise routine, just sort of periodically just turn up the volume. And, nobody's watching from outside anyway. I don't really care. But, just start practicing some moves. Also, it gives me the advantage that if I do get in a situation where there's dancing to be done, I'll feel more, prepared. That's a lot of the problem with why I couldn't dance is because I didn't really practice it much. But you need to, like everything, and like the guitar, which I haven't touched now for about 3 months, I think, or 2 months perhaps. I just haven't touched it. I cut my nails yesterday, or the day before. I was thinking of picking up the guitar, but there's like a barrier somehow. Um, I'm not sure quite, but I've just been busy with so much other stuff also. Um, but I was thinking I might play the Beatitudes. They're on my mind, and I've got a tune for them. I've done them before. But I might be able to do them a bit better. The Beatitudes are nice, which I could have on another tattoo. Or the other alternative is I'd like to have like kind of broken down city gate. That would be the gate of Jerusalem, shall we say, but it doesn't matter. Just an old style of broken down archway. And then with the words of um, Proverbs, I can't remember the exact line. I think it would be Proverbs 8. What does it say? Wisdom standeth in the gate. I can't remember. Something like that. And just, a writing or a couple of lines from the Proverbs. But none of the words that I've actually had inscribed upon my body are exactly as they appear in the Bible. And that's kind of interesting. It's been, their paraphrases. I mean, well, the Latin one, of course, isn't a paraphrase. That is the Latin for "Hail, Christ the King." But this one is a paraphrase, "Peace on earth," because it doesn't even say that. It says, "On earth, peace," in the Bible. And I thought about writing "On earth, peace," but it's, really you'd need to write the whole verse to put it in context. It would have been misleading, I think. And over the flat Earth one here, I've just written, "He sitteth upon the circle of the earth." But in Isaiah 40, it doesn't say that. It says, "It is He that sitteth upon the circle of the earth." I think it's upon. It might be above. I might have got it mixed up. It doesn't really matter. It's artwork, more than anything. But I'm not going to say something that's different with a different meaning. I suppose upon and above are quite similar. So that would be, a non-biblical quotation.